Good evening. My name is Odie Hawkins. It's Monday evening, and once again, we're here to acquaint you with a few of the works that I've written, specifically this pile of novels right over here. But before I begin going into my little spiel here, I'd like to welcome my partner and the co-producer of this program. I should say the producer of the program, and also the director of the program. And this elegantly attired lady here is the one, Zola Salena-Hawkins.
Hello.
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 Pull up a chair. We're drinking tea. I'm having apple cider.
Martinelli's cider in a big cute bottle.
Yeah, it's good to
Get you some libation or something
yeah.
as you watch your show. A snack on.
For those who may not be acquainted with the purpose of the show, I'd like to say that I was coerced into doing this by a couple of friends of mine who were saying, okay, look, you're Odie Hawkins. You have 38 published books. Okay. So what's the problem? You don't seem to be selling as many of them as you think you would like to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the solution. Why don't you make yourself a cyber corner? Zola knows all about that kind of stuff. She knows how to handle cameras and do zooms and zams and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't take a lot of convincing. I had a catalog right here with synopsis of all the books.
Yes, look here.
With at least 17 of the books.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, heard.
But let me interject this, that after Holloway House, there was Author House, iUniverse, Book Baby, and
Open Road.
Open Road took over. What happened was we paid for 15 of your books to be republished through iUniverse, and then without telling us, iUniverse sold those books to Open Road. And even though Open Road is saying that it costs them additional amount of money to sell them, and until we pay the money to Open Road, we can't get any royalties for the books they're selling, that we're selling from iUniverse exactly the same way. But that's the business.
Isn't she marvelous? Now, this is what I couldn't keep a grip on.
Oh, Archway also publishing was, and Book Baby was, I think I mentioned Book Baby, but Archway is one of the little suites. We did little suites. And so we've been working through the different houses.
Yeah.
And we're told, maybe just do it on Amazon, because recently Author House contacted us to tell us they want to reissue some of the books they've already issued that we paid for. So that's a big question mark, because you're still writing books.
Sure, but don't worry your little head about it.
Don't get frustrated.
This is an explanation, and it's one of the things we decided to encapsule as we talked about my books, which is.
And also when people want to publish books, know that it's not just a simple, I want to publish a book. That I want my whole family to read.
Yeah. No, it's a very difficult concept for some people to come to grips with that. This is a business. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, after you get through creating and having your creative energies expressed on a sheet of paper and created a manuscript and so forth and so on, if you would like to have your books self-published, this is the kind of thing you'd have to go through. I'm pleased to go through it, frankly, because number one, early on I got tired of having would-be publishers say, okay, listen, we are familiar with your works and so forth and so on, but we would like to have you stick with one genre. That never appealed to me. I think Walter Mosley is a fine person, but if I had to do Easy Ed over 67 books, I'd go out of my mind. I just simply don't feel bound to just go into noir or to go into romance.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, I'm already scapegoated to become a black writer, which means I'm only supposed to be writing about urban things, which is not something that I'm doing.
And even though your books, now, what is it, a story or two was published in La France, a magazine in France?
Everybody speak English.
Okay, you know, and so the books are selling in China.
Yeah, everywhere, specifically, I don't know, mainland China, but in Taiwan. Let's get
Right,
that
well,
straight.
well, also we got, Googling it, I found your cookbook was being sold in China. And I was
Yeah,
like,
cookbook.
okay.
I'm honored.
Okay, and in fact, someone supposedly called from China saying they wanted to know if we were interested in them working as our publisher. And I'm like, that's okay. But when you work with Holloway House, you got money for each book.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the traditional way of doing it is to have the publisher or the editor, whoever is responsible for the acceptance or rejection of a piece of material, say to you, okay, we like Chicago Hustle, and we pay an advance here at this publishing house, an advance for paperback books of, let's say, $1,200, $1,500, which is
That was the rate back then.
Back then. It may be more now.
Mm-hmm.
These 17 books I had published by Holloway, that was the deal with the 17 books coming from Holloway House. When you publish the books on your own, then it means you have to take all those chances, that you have to do the PR. But I would like to say, since the 17 books that we had published
Mm-hmm.
have been pursued by a bunch of people who are called acquisitors. These are people who work for major league publishing companies, so they say, and they offer you a deal. It can be a very extravagant, wonderful looking deal until you get down to the bottom line, which is you pay for what you pay for what they're asking you to do.
Yeah, they're packaged. We pay, you know, they want you to do the video and so forth. However, there was one earlier this year, when I was going over our notes from earlier this year, and she was interested in ancestral meridians.
Mm.
And she sent us contract information, which we forwarded to Author House, but we also to their legal department.
Not to Author House, to others.
I mean, author, yeah. Was it
The Authors Guild.
Authors Guild? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Authors Guild, which is a union you belong to. And I think we submitted two at the same time.
Mm.
And so my bad, because they wanted us to only submit one. They said they would critique one contract at a time, and I didn't get back on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pull that email up again and see if they're still interested in ancestral meridians, because that seems to be the book that you're getting several calls on.
Yeah.
You know.
At the moment, but
Well,
then there's
recently,
others.
Recently.
Yeah. Incidentally,
Mm-hmm.
ancestral meridians, for those who may have had acupuncture, this might be a familiar thing. For some people, when you have acupuncture for whatever reason, we have to disclaim any medical connection to any acupuncturist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shilling for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had acupuncture. Zola's had acupuncture, and it can work a sort of magic for a moment, but it is not the total solution.
Mm-hmm.
It can alleviate pain and so forth and so on.
Well, I would go once a month when Jewel was at her place, and I called it my tune-up. Okay, so I found it beneficial.
Yeah, it can be very soothing.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is called Ancestral Meridians. I propose the premise that it might be possible that acupuncturists have not discovered some unknown meridian that would perhaps take you into the past and into the future. It's purely fantastical, and
I beg to differ. Remember that time when Dr. Blank, and he gave me acupuncture, he left the room, and I believe that I went to an African village, and I felt the sun as people came in to take me out, and there was these wonderful smells of food. And as I were being pulled out of the hut into the sunlight, I woke up and found myself in the room. And it was just, 30 years of acupuncture that had never happened before, but it was like I actually had been taken to an African village. Usually I go out into space and just this darkness and float, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
But that was that one time that I went to an African village, and I swear that it felt like I actually was
I beg your pardon, because you're absolutely correct. The first time.
Yes, the first time in 30 years.
I had acupuncture, the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
A little Korean man named Dr. Jean Pilro. He didn't speak English very well. I didn't speak Korean at all. But he asked me I had injured my back in Taekwondo. This was in the 80s. And I was given this acupuncturist address up on Hollywood somewhere. I went, fell off my bike, crawled up the chair, crawled up the stairs. He let me in the door and took a good look at me. I found out later he probably was x-raying me because he had that particular kind of piercing thing. He asked me what was the problem. He gave me a sheet with a body on it. Asked me to shade whatever would bother me. I shaded my whole back. He gave me a very nice little smile. Get on the table, no problem. Okay, the first time I stopped counting after the 20th needle. These were not the electronic needles that some people use. He's the old-fashioned way, which is to take a very thin needle. It does not hurt. It does not hurt.
Especially if they use a thin needles. Sometimes they use a thicker needle, but sometimes that just like poke. But yeah.
Well, there's a certain order to these things, and the acupuncturist knows. You went where you went. I went out into space somewhere. I don't know how many light years I was gone, but when I came back, my back was half well, and from that first visit, and then I had two others. And of course, I immediately ran back into Taekwondo to see if I could get myself hurt again. I'm just
Yes, we're digressing. So from ancestral meridians to the last of the Holloway House.
Okay, last of the Holloway House books is what I'd like to talk about on this occasion. The book is called Men Friends, and I took the idea from having so many, watching so many TV shows and seeing so many ladies talk about their friends. They always have girlfriends, and they talk about their girlfriends and what they used to do and how well they used to get along and so forth and so on. And I thought, I have men friends, and we don't talk about each other quite like that, but we do talk about each other. And in this particular book here, what I'm looking for is this little synopsis that I made, but I have it right here in front of me. The book is called, as I just said, Men Friends. And what I've done, I've taken, don't worry about it, it's here. What I've done is taken a number of friends that I've had over the years, both past, present, and talked about little adventures we've had together over the time that we've known each other.
It's the third book.
Oh. Men Friends. Okay.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Which is something that all of us do. I can think of times when, let's say, Palmer and Ralph and I have tripped off in this camper going up to the Monterey Jazz Festival way back when, having a really good time. At the time, I hope that there's no statute. I hope there is a statute of limitations on what it is that we did that was naughty. But as you can see, we survived. Other friends, I had a friend named Clyde. Clyde was a mechanical genius. Fixed cars, had a terrible temper, was always in a bad. He was always a funk. about something. Somebody had pissed him off, or he was worried about this or that or that. Coupled to that, he was a stone alcoholic. And what happened as an alcoholic was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up one day at my apartment and says to me, listen, I want you to help me do something. He got his arms bandaged, his forearms bandaged. And I'm looking at him and saying, help me do something. What's the problem? And what happened to your arms? That's what I'm trying to get at. Little guy, about 5'8", very feisty. He had been in the paratroopers, and he had that kind of mentality. I stored one of my cars. So, how many you got? That's immaterial. I stored one of my cars over in this garage with this guy. I asked him if I could store it there. I said, well, did you pay for the storage? That's beside the point. Why are you getting ahead of the story? This is the kind of guy he was. He would exasperate you, but at the same time, he would entertain you and occasionally inform you. He says, I went over to see about my car, and they had the car towed away. Oh, that doesn't seem like it was a nice thing for them to do. Did they give you an advance notice? No, he's been telling me since last year he's going to have the car taken. Wait a minute, Carl. Let me get something straight. You stored your car in somebody else's garage, and they were paying no fee, and he's telling you get your car out, and you say he's at fault. Well, he didn't have to have that towed away. He could have done something else. Well, I don't know whose side I'm on. You got to be on my side because I want you to get together with me and come help whip them.
Oh no!
So
no.
Looks like looks like you've had a little problem whipping them yourself. Is that what your arm is? This guy tells me he had gone over to see about this matter, and he's attacked by two men with tire irons. And so his blocking techniques prevented him from getting his head crushed in or something.
Only his arms, okay.
But he had arms, they didn't bang him up forever, but this is the kind of thing he would get into. I've tried to get into friends that were special to me, but also the friends that we know we've always had. We always, all of us have been forced to suffer the friendship of somebody who's always late, for example, or the people who tell you one thing and you find out something else 15 minutes later. They find it almost impossible to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm. And why did you write Men Friends?
Just to show that men could, to show the masculine side of friends. I think we bond in a very different way than women. Guys by and large don't. You run up and grab each other and get a kiss on both cheeks.
That's your friendship.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'm sure some gay men do, but most straight guys are kind of circumspect and they standoffish, and we don't. From what I've noticed, it's just an observation, but we don't seem to share the kind of home stories about each other's babies and mothers and so forth. So I've sat and listened to women talk about their mothers, and they will sound in the most delightful way. I really miss that mothers had passed. That means that the mothers had died. Yeah, I really missed her because she was the one person who would tell me the truth. When Mom said, chickens carry snuff cans under their left wing, I might be tempted to go look because she knew something. She knew something.
Code. Okay.
So that's one reason. Just to expose another side. I'm making every effort I can before I drop the pen.
Okay.
I'm making every effort to explore those little things, those moments that we have.
So Men's Friends is a series of stories regarding your men friends.
Men friends, right. For example, and I'll end the information about men friends by saying one of the best friends I ever had was my father. And I guess the second best friend was his brother, My father's name was Odie Senior. They called him Honey because he was so
Naughty.
sweet.
Naughty.
Naughty. You had to love. He was charming.
Watch out for the Hawkins men.
He was charming and sweet and loving and kind.
Yeah, watch
And
out for the
he
Hawkins.
could steal your wife from you if you stayed away from home too long. Uncle John was very different. Another way, he was a man of honor. He didn't fool around. He gambled. He played cards. He played poker. But he was not a thief. He was not the kind of person my dad was.
He was smooth.
Yeah.
He was very smooth.
He was very smooth.
Yeah.
Uncle John. Okay. That was men friends. I'm not giving you the stories of all of them because, for example, in brief, we knew a man named Armando Perazza. Armando Perazza has been called one of the greatest Afro-Cuban congueros ever seen. He and Carlos Petato Valdez and Mongo Santamaria and Francisco Aguampeya, Modesto Duran, Julito Collazo, the whole slew of them that people have listened to but not recognized. If they were to give credit where credit is due to the Afro-Cuban congueros who came to this country starting back when Chano Pozo first came, and if they were who played with Dizzy Gillespie, if they would give them credit, we would be looking at another kind of. We would be looking at African American music in another kind of way. To me, there's a little side room called Afro-Cuban because a lot of us were really seriously affected by the Cuban influence, the African Cuban influence.
And Armando was one of your men friends.
And he was one of my men friends.
He was a very dynamic personality.
He started off with somebody named Slim Gaillard. He went from there to George Shearing. I think he played with George Shearing maybe 12 years. He left George Shearing and then wound up with Santana. He played 17 years with Santana. And if you look at and listen to some of the Santana music, oye, como va? Oye, como va? You will hear Armando Perazza supplying the vertebrae to that music. Armando Perazza. I'm at Secret Music. I wanted to deal with something that would be just the title alone tells you that you're dealing with. I'm heavily into characters because I think that characters are much better than sitting down and coming with a fictional story that has no memorable characters. You tell a story, and then at the end of it, someone says, "Well, where are the people? Who are the people? Which one was the people?" Secret Music is a story about people who have had interesting things happen to them. For example, I'm starting off Secret Music with a young lady who has immigrated, young African woman from England, who has 2 children and has somehow or other made her way to the United States without very much support other than her own ingenuity, and she winds up living in the projects. Now, I knew this lady who was married to a friend of mine, and the details are kind of fuzzy at this point, but we were always enchanted by the fact that she had this rather heavy English accent. She was well spoken. Yes, actually. Yes.
Okay. Right. Fascinating.
It's rather. Some people call her Queenie. She didn't care very much for that, but her name actually was Elizabeth. So she didn't want to be called Queenie. She had 2 kids, Diane and Charles.
Oh my, okay.
She did.
Okay.
She was English as she could be, but we didn't want to, we had to get past the melanin first in order to get to the English. And most of us stopped at the melanin. Oh, come on, sister. Stop talking like that. What do you mean? Talk like what?
Okay. I love
She
it.
got into the black side of things in the projects and became very close friends to a number of people who got to know her by learning how to play whist, bid whist. She loved bid whist. Once she learned bid whist, she became
Sister.
a sister. Not sister, sister. She became a sister. Okay, she's in there.
Okay.
I'm talking to you about the busting out of an ordinary man. And here's what an editor can do that can drive you up the wall. I had a book published by Holloway House called Ghetto Sketches. Ghetto Sketches, I've talked about before, is a book about a neighborhood, basically. A neighborhood is a village, and the village is, how can I put this? The village the village is a world. This street, I'm thinking about one block, Washburn Avenue on the west side of Chicago, was where the action of the Ghetto Sketches takes place. Okay, the Ghetto Sketches takes us through what goes on through any ghetto neighborhood. You got the uppers and lowers, you got the good and the bad, you got people who are kind and people who are not kind. And everything worked out all right. The book was published and it's been issued several times. This is the first publication of this book by Holloway House. And as you can see, it has a lousy cover. The second time it was published by
Miss Johnson.
a lady who claimed to be a publisher,
Okay.
who
And
wanted to publish the book.
the last time it was published, we sort of changed the title and made it Ghetto Sketches 2020,
2020, 22,
2021, right?
I believe.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's on the very bottom. And so, in that one, we put the names of the people who have been killed by the police
Over the course of a year or two.
since,
Since George Floyd.
but it,
Since George Floyd.
okay.
Hundreds of people have been killed since George Floyd. The latest one I saw on television, I don't know if you all caught this, I don't know where the man is, but he's black and he's handcuffed. They have him handcuffed to a gurney, and I think 10 or 12 white policemen killed him. They just beat him to death. By the time they got him to the hospital, he was already dead. But, people are constantly being slaughtered, is a better way to put it, by police who seem to feel that the best way they can have law-abiding black citizens is to kill them.
And it's unfortunate that in every organization, from ice cream man selling ice cream, every organization, there are some bad players.
Sure.
And unfortunately, there are some people who are above the law, in a sense, or use their authority incorrectly, and should not be considered that all policemen are that mentality.
No.
But
No.
it's like a bag of rotten potatoes. That one potato in that bag makes it seem like you need to throw the whole bag away, and that's not the case.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. That's the way it is. Finally, I'm coming to a book called Scars and Memories. And I would like to say Scars and Memories. Scars and Memories is autobiographical.
How old were you?
40 something, 50.
Oh, that's perfect time, right about
Oh,
your life.
okay, but no,
At 87.
I disagree with you.
Okay, all right.
When I read the book now, okay, I wasn't anxious to write my autobiography.
You just wanted the money.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
And at the same time, I get a chance to say a few words about some things I feel warm about, and I feel I had opportunity to give some of my life story out there. The reason I say I disagree with you about the age thing, I wrote it when I was a little bit too young and maybe somewhat too much, a little bit too immature.
Okay.
Let me explain that. At 50, you shouldn't be immature. But as a writer, I can say that honestly, but at 50 you can be immature. First of all, I didn't want to angelicize myself. I didn't want to make it seem as though
God forbid you do that.
Oh, let me give you a little.
Why, thank you kindly, sir. Apple cider.
Yeah, Zola is someone who does not drink, and of course, I am only interested in sarsaparilla and chocolate milk. So I guess you could say this is chocolate milk. However, if I can quote a line from this cup that our friend Alfred, Brother Reeves gave me the cup saying, now
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
I thought that was very decent of him to.
He said that the cup was screaming, "Take me to Odie."
Take me.
Thank you, Alfred.
Okay, scars and memories. The reason I'm saying I was too young, I was not able to express the feelings that I feel capable of expressing now. I'm on a new version of Scars and Memories, and I'm calling it something else. But at the time, I realized when I reread it, maybe a year later, you know, I could have done this, I could have said this, I should have done this, I should have done that. If you find yourself in that sort of conundrum, you probably need to settle back, do a very long-term outline about what it is you propose to, what the premise of the book is supposed to be. The premise in this instance is, what is the goal of this thing? I didn't find the kind of premise I wanted to find in it. What I wanted to say is that, hey, look at me, boys and girls. I've been, you know, the way they do on Sesame
Yes,
Street.
right.
Look at me, boys and girls.
Okay.
I've done everything that many of you have done. Fortunately, I have only been to jail twice, and both times was to teach a writing class. The first time was in 1980s at Chino for 2 years. I taught a writing class, and then I moved up north to Oakland and wound up teaching at San Quentin for 2 years. At the same time, I was teaching at the Dual Vocational Institute. It's a boys' prison, a few miles up the road from San Quentin. And when I came to the realization, I had not delved into the recesses of who I am or who I think I am deeply enough. It was very shallow. I was content to write something kind of spacey and a little bit, a little bit slangy, but it didn't reach the kind of depth that I think that a writer should express in his autobiography. It's hard to open your guts up and say, this is who I am. If I were to tell people in the autobiography that I would write today, I would be willing to say things that I didn't feel qualified to say or that I didn't have proof of. For example, I used to argue with people who were pre-MAGA, black and white. And I can think of some brothers who I remember arguing with about pre-MAGA, which is to say we need to have a strong man in charge of the government, one who could, snap a whip and everybody would jump into place and so forth and so on. My argument against that is that I just didn't like dictatorships, but I was not thorough enough in explaining why and specifically how I did not like dictatorships. So a word to the wise, when you start doing your autobiography, remember, it's auto and it's you. It's coming from you. So unless you're one of these people who has to try to please everybody all around you, tell the truth. Tell the truth. If you were a thief at 12, which like me, I was, I could, small enough to steal anything. If I could crawl in there and get it, I would get it.
Well, the circumstances, the poverty, as you said, you were not poor, you were poor. So, you know, when the bed hungry, woke up hungry.
That's a family joke when we read
Mm-hmm.
a material written by authors who had it hard. I remember in one case, in a piece of material we read, the author was feeling disgusted and mad at the circumstances of his upbringing because on occasion they had to eat deer meat.
That was fascinating.
Imagine that, they had to eat deer meat.
Okay.
Or, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay. And both Odie and I remember bologna with green on it. And people cutting off the green or maybe leaving it on and just slapping it on between two pieces of Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
Dating myself.
The little family joke we have about po and poor is that po is the ground level, poor is upper class po.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
What's that?
and as you go along, of course, you can become middle class poor, or like a lot of people who worked at the post office over the years can tell you, they can become solid middle class poor. Once you get through paying these bills and sending these kids off to college, you're almost poor. Listen.
No, but, well, before we go, I do want to say, since this is almost the last day of 2024, I want to say hello and goodbye and hello again to several of our friends like Ed Garrett, Lily Hood, Linda, Elaine Monas. Okay, and Master Tom, of course.
Alfred Reeves. Master Tom.
James Butler.
Hey, James Butler. Where do you want to stop?
I can't stop. There's so many people that are in our heart.
Ruby Castillo.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Pat Forte.
Okay. Soma. Okay.
Soma.
And the Tai Chi folks there.
All of the Tai Chi families.
And the Caporistas. And Jewel and Rue.
My God. We
You
have to stop here because
we must think about your friends and the people that have meant a lot to you throughout your life, and especially this year. And all those folks that have, we say in the Black community, gone home. Those who have gone home and that you will see again in this life, but they'll always be in your mind and in your heart.
That's right.
And with that, you too will be in our minds, hoping that you will take time, buy an Odie Hawkins book.
How can you get these books?
You can go to Amazon or go online, just Google Odie, not Audie, Odie, O-D-I-E, Hawkins.com, and that's his website. Or just, like say, Google and say that you want an Odie Hawkins book, and it'll pop up. And if and for those who are academians,
Academicians?
Yeah, right.
I like yours better. Academians.
That he writes the language the way that people speak it. They're not people in the ghettos of America don't necessarily speak English, United Kingdom English, or American English for that matter. Yeah. They have a different rhythm and a different way of communicating, but you should find it interesting.
That's the point, and I would like to add as an afterthought. She's not saying that all of the people in all of the books necessarily speak ghettoese, like where you've been at, and et cetera, et cetera. But the ones who require, for example, one of my latest books is called Liquor Store Roofers.
Conversations with Liquor Store.
Okay, somebody said, hey, I'd like to get a copy of Liquor Store Roofs. You may not get it if you ask for liquor. He's saying liquor, L-I-K-K-A, liquor store.
Conversations with liquor.
We go to the liquor store to get some liquor. And if you miss that nuance, then you might be not getting a lot of other things that happen in it.
This is true.
But
and with that, Happy New Year.
Hey, see you next time.
See you in 2025.
That's what it'll be, won't it?
It sure will.
You look spliffy, I must say.
Why, thank you. Loving you.
With your long dress on.
My long dress on.